Welcome home, everybody. Good to see you. Found it. Bring it on. And so, if you guys have been kind of keeping up with the last video, you know that we were talking about a King Nebuchadnezzar who thought he was a cow or animal, ox. I guess an ox, but you know, whatever. But he thought he was an animal, and well, because he ate grass and everything. Very strange, but I thought we'd go ahead and talk a little bit more about King Nebuchadnezzar. So, whew, sorry, apologies everybody. But so he's very well known in Daniel, as we all know. That's where we just read about him in the video that you saw before this, hopefully. If not, go and watch it. But we'll dive in a little bit more of Nebuchadnezzar himself, and maybe there's something you didn't know about him. We'll see. I mean, he's a very well-known king, I think, due to the stories that we hear. All those Bible stories that we talk about as a kid or Sunday school and such. And so he's fairly well-known, but maybe there's something that you didn't know about him. So he first mention of him that we actually get in the Bible is actually in 2 Kings 24. Now, he's listed amidst a bunch of corrupt kings of Judah, and so in 2 Kings 2:24 says, "In his day Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him." So that's the first ever mention we have of Nebuchadnezzar in the Bible. He's also mentioned not only in 2 Kings, but 2 Chronicles, Ezra, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. And of course Daniel, which is where we most hear of his the Bible stories and things like that. So now, more interesting facts about him is that he became king right after his father's death, which was the 16th of August, 605 BC. Why it's a specific date? I guess it's written down somewhere, which is actually another very interesting about King Nebuchadnezzar, or just the Babylonian Empire, is that it has a lot of textual writings in history. So there's actually a lot of history with the Babylonian Empire, which of course is what he's king of. If you didn't deduce that. Find that? Anyway, he's the king. I mean, that's who's he the king of, right? And what is interesting is he is 29 years old when he becomes king. When his father dies, he's 29 years old, and very quickly he becomes a military king, because he goes on several campaigns to establish his power, and he's very successful in these military campaigns and such. Nebuchadnezzar, which is also the Nebuchadnezzar II, because I guess there was a first Nebuchadnezzar, but we usually refer to him just as Nebuchadnezzar, because he was also known as Nebuchadnezzar the Great, because he was very much regarded and believed to be the greatest king for the Babylonian Empire, which also is called the Chaldean dynasty, I guess, the greatest king of the Chaldean dynasties of Babylon. If that makes sense, because he not only did when he first became king, he went on several campaigns to assert his dominance and his power, and to secure it, but also he conquered Syria, conquered Palestine, as we all know, and he made Babylon a magnificent city. He destroyed the Temple of Jerusalem, as we know, and he put the Jews in exile, and he put them in captivity, and that's where we get Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, from Daniel, of course. He also was a great builder. So not only was he a warrior king, but we mentioned how he kind of built things. He built what is known as the garden. It's it's what is it called? Hanging garden, which was considered one of the wonders of the world. It was considered to be one of the most uh, magnificent engineering feats. It was beautiful, spectacular, and he helped build that, along with also the Babylonian walls, which at the time were the greatest of all. Um, Through his leadership, also, speaking of these walls, is that he made Babylon, the Babylonian Empire, sorry, the greatest empire of its time. They had conquered the Assyrians, which were at the time the largest, and they did have, I guess, more square miles than Babylon, but Babylon was much more powerful, much more prevalent, and it became probably one of the first actual world superpowers. If you needed something, usually Babylon was involved, or I mean, everyone knew about Babylon. It was the Roman Empire of the ancient times. I just realized how weird that was. But yeah, they were the first kind of really world power, like everyone in the known world knew of them. Known world, I guess that doesn't really make. But anyway, yeah, the point is they were the powerhouse of the time. Um, he not. Oh, I already talked about that, about how he burned the temple and sent him in exile. So we know him as the king in Daniel, who had dreams, and Daniel was the one who came and kind of told him what the dreams meant, and so that's another cool thing that we actually get to hear about him, is how he has these very interesting dreams, which actually talk about the fall of Babylon. And of course, if you read through the book of Daniel, one of my favorite books, by the way. Wonder why. Anyway, if you don't know, never mind. If you don't know, you don't know. But if you know, you know. Gotcha. Anyway, so not only did he get these dreams and such that were we get our Bible stories from, also from Nebuchadnezzar. We get these dreams, we get these stories, the furnace, we get the lion's den, we get the story of him turning into, thinking he's a cow, acting like a cow, becoming a beast of the land, whatever. But also we get the dreams of, this is where also the hand, he sees the hand of God writing on the tablet thing. I think it's actually an angel's hand. I don't know. But anyways, the hand that appears and writes, the statue, which eventually tells about what is going to happen to Babylon, is going to be prosperous, and then slowly decay, and then eventually its downfall. Also, Nebuchadnezzar is very interesting. So he gives honor to the Lord 2 times. This is something that actually is really, really cool. So the first time, the first time is, I lost this place. Oh, so the first time again, of course, is during the furnace. It is the fiery furnace. It's in Daniel 3:28 through 29. It says, Nebuchadnezzar spoke and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who hath sent his angels and delivered his servants that trust in him. And every change and have in him and have changed the king's word, and have yielded their bodies that they might not serve nor worship any god except their own God. Therefore I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut into pieces, and their houses shall be made of dunghill, because there is no other God that is able to deliver after this sort. Now, this actually kind of reminds me, this is another thing he was actually very well known for, was his brutality. Now, it was a good thing because it prevented people, well, to him, not a good thing as in, oh, it was good, but no. He did it to prevent uprisings, which was fairly successful, and honestly, it got people in line. People listened. So he was known for, like, when he burned a city down, it was ash. It was it was charcoal, it was dust. Like it was something he was very well known for, especially being a military campaign king, a military king, really. The second time he does it is right after he thinks he's a cow, which we find in Daniel 4:34, which says, "At the end of days, I, Nebuchadnezzar," so this is him, "lifted up my eyes into heaven, and mine understanding returned unto me. And I blessed Most High, and praised and honored him that liveth forever. For his dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom from generation to generation." Now, that's his words. It's him, as you read. I, Nebuchadnezzar, have full sense of myself, and he praises God. Now, a lot of people believe, which is another very interesting fact. I know I'm kind of all over the place, guys, but I'm trying to make it more exciting. Anyway, or just, oh, there's a lot of cool stuff. But anyway, sorry, get back on track. So, a lot of people think that because of these encounters and because of all that happens to King Nebuchadnezzar, that he actually converts. There's unfortunately no actual hard fact data to support this. However, what is very cool to see is that because of these, that Nebuchadnezzar becomes he honors God. He actually ends up kind of worshiping the Jewish God, the one true God, and so the Jews actually have a lot of favor in his kingdom, and they're able to prosper and able to flourish. Honestly, even though they are still suppressed, and still in a captivity, but they are protected now through both where we read in with Daniel 3 with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and in Daniel 4 where he praises him. However, he doesn't set them free. He's a king, and he does eventually die. He does die a peaceful death, which I do believe is more because he did humble himself, which was one of the biggest lessons that Nebuchadnezzar teaches us, is humility, or being humbled before the Lord. That the Lord he can definitely humble you. Ooh, praise the Lord. Yes, I know something. Anyway, so he ruled for about 43 years until he passed, and then what's interesting is how quickly Babylon fell. Very quickly after his death, Babylon began to crumble, weaken, and it was very quickly conquered by the Persians, which then, when the Persians came, that's when a lot of the Jews began to return home. And so it was just something very interesting. And yeah, there's a whole lot more about Nebuchadnezzar, but you guys are probably bored out of your minds by now, or at least things you might already know, what have you. And this is already kind of getting a little bit out there. But I hope you did find something new and exciting and learn something, and maybe get a new appreciation for King Nebuchadnezzar, who we always considered to be a villain, which, I mean, he definitely is no good, honorable hero, but he's definitely much more complex than what maybe we were taught in Sunday schools. Yeah, not saying anything, just not defending him or anything. I'm just saying there's more to him, and it's a very interesting character because he does honor the Lord. So, well, eventually, after he's humble. Stay humble, my friends. Anyway, with that, I hope you guys got something. I absolutely love you guys. He always loves you and does love you. And I'll see you in the next video. Later!